Lynn, can you see that I'm recording?
Yes, sorry, Joseph, you are recording.
Okay, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone on the East Coast and Central Time in the United States, and in Mountain and Pacific Time. Good morning. This is Joseph Antel with you again in 2021. Happy New Year to you all. And as you know, my schedule has changed, and you should be getting the new schedule. And as you know, that I've been teaching 2 to 3 times a week for the last 5 to 6 years. So I'm going down to teaching once a week. So on the first Thursday and third Thursday of every month, I'm going to be teaching on my new book, Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. I'm just going to mute you out, Lynn. And on the second and fourth, I'll be teaching the heart sound interpretation webinars. And please remember to send in your graphs, your cases, your toughest cases, but I need to see the graphs so we can discuss those. So also I wanted to mention that on January the 16th, I believe that's correct. That's Saturday. Here it is, January the 16th. My colleague Tim Bayan and his daughter Jessica will be teaching a interpretation seminar, more advanced. So any of you that have heart sound recorders, please take advantage of this. And if you don't have a heart sound recorder, then you may want to attend this to see if this is something that would apply accurately to your clinic and your marketing of supplements and your helping clients get and stay well. Then the following Saturday, this, by the way, this is just an hour long, an hour and a half long, 11 to 12:30, and that's Eastern time. Then the following Saturday, you're going to hear from one of my great teachers, Mark Anderson, who I use today. I'll use some of his PowerPoints in my lecture, and he's been a colleague and a teacher of mine since 1972. Long time we've been together, and he's going to do 3 hours, and he's going to get into the depth of products that are not considered standard vitamin supplement products and mineral products and herbal products. He's going to go more into depth into products like AC carbamide, Arginex, Antranex, and what he's calling the non-nutritive physiological remedies. And this is really, really going to be an excellent, I hope, series that he's going to do. That'll be for 3 hours. And then for the next 3 hours, Dr. Keppel is going to teach you how to apply those particular products, and I'm sure some other things in your practice. So I highly recommend both of these for you on Saturdays. Some of you like Saturdays, which I'm no longer teaching on Saturdays. But our topic today, of course, is the subject of cholesterol, particularly high cholesterol. And I'm going to go into this in depth with you. And again, I'm not going to try to teach you what others teach. I'm going to try to give you pearls and approaches that are off the standard track and based on, of course, Dr. Lee's work. So We're going to look at that today. Let me just open this up here. This will open up. There we go. Okay. And these, of course, these protocols, based on what I'm going to teach you today, are all in my book, Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. So today we're really going to look at in depth these 3 products. If you have my book, if you don't have it, you should have it so you can make notes. There's plenty of room for notes, and that's why we created the layout that we did, so that you can make notes on these pages of pearls and other information. And you'll have my lectures, of course, and my notes from these lectures as well, to go more into depth and how and why we created these protocols. But remember, these protocols are all in order of importance. So in the case of high cholesterol, which we're really going to look at today, is beta food, Cyruta, and soybean lecithin. Now, I'm not going to get that much into choline. Choline will be mentioned today, or tuna oil or garlic. Now, you pretty much know that your omega-3s is good for lowering cholesterol, and garlic is, here's what I would say to you all. If things like these things worked, there would be no high cholesterol. So just like statins that we'll look at today, because they're not hitting the mark. They're not addressing the real causes of why this is happening and understanding that to a large extent, high cholesterol is okay. So we'll get into this, but but we're mainly going to focus on these 3 products. Now, I would say in relationship to low cholesterol, now they're saying that cholesterol should be 200, the overall cholesterol should be 200 or lower. But remember, if you get a client and their cholesterol, say they're on statins, say they're not well, say they have maybe some malignancy in their body or something else going on, their cholesterol will be 120. Their overall cholesterol will be 120 or lower, and that is a red flag. I'm not going to talk about that today other than just mentioning it. So these are the products you would use for that. Here's, if you do have low cholesterol, just to take a minute here, you need to address an overactive thyroid, malnutrition, and malabsorption. Supporting the immune system is primary, digestive system and biliary system. Manganese is necessary enzyme cofactor for cholesterol synthesis and B vitamins as well. That's if they have low cholesterol. And I'll just read, in fact, I'm reading out of the Mastering Nutrition with Blood Chemistry. Cholesterol is best used as an indicator of other metabolic dysfunctions. It should not be considered a disease by itself unless extreme. Too high, too low. 120 or lower is too low. 260 or higher in my book is too high, which suggests familial cause. So some kind of hereditary pattern as they describe it. Check triglycerides and HDL and LDL cholesterol is increased with endocrine hypofunction. So low levels are not necessarily desirable and are associated with increased incidence of malignancy and mental illness. Very interesting. So that's your low cholesterol, which again is not my particular topic today, but I wanted to mention that. This article is very good, very well written, and again, you have these articles. You can study more later on, and go into this in depth. But this is by this doctor, what's his name? Dr. Kate, K-A or Kate. I am not sure the pronunciation on it, but I wanted to, he goes over, and he's a medical doctor, he goes over some of the myths and what cholesterol is, which is excellent. But I wanted to read you this one section here, 4 to 5. Here it is. Okay. What is high cholesterol number and how can you lower it naturally? The politically correct answer to this question has crept lower and lower over time. He's watched it over these years. When I first entered medical school, any cholesterol number under 300 wouldn't have raised the doctor's eyebrows. Over the past decade, the goalposts have shifted. Today, if your total cholesterol, your overall cholesterol is over 200, or your bad cholesterol is over 100, the lab will give you a red flag, and your local doctor will probably start warning you of warning you off steak and lobster. That's a tragedy, isn't it? But none of those red flag numbers were grounded in solid science. We have to remember this. And we know that the reason is they want to sell statins. Now, I'm not going to beat that drum today. I've got some articles that I'll read to you about that. But still, there is a lot to be learned from each of the numbers reported on a cholesterol test, as long as you know how to interpret them. And he goes into that too in this article. It's very well written. And numbers can tell you something important about the state of your metabolism. This is a very important pearl. And I'll get into this later, related to liver function, to intestinal function, to thyroid function. There's a reason. Your age, and all tied in with your metabolism, all of those factors. Teach folks how to interpret their numbers. When I work privately with patients and will be offering a group class. Oh, okay. He's got 3 articles, by the way, so you can get this one and then follow, or I can send you the other ones later on if you're interested. Just shoot me an email. My most recent total cholesterol was 263. LDL cholesterol was 177, HDL was 83, and triglycerides were 65. Now, the HDL with him, by the way, is good, and so are his triglycerides. But medically, they would say his total is too high, which is actually not true. Even though my own personal physician wasn't happy, the numbers indicate overall good metabolic health. Again, the key word is, how is your metabolism? How are you functioning? How is your lifestyle? I've met folks whose low numbers give them a false sense of security that their diet was healthy and unfortunately suffered a heart attack or a stroke. In spite of what they say, in spite of everything that's been taught about from the medical standpoint. Statins and the other approaches have not worked. There's still more strokes and heart attacks in this country. Lowering cholesterol does not solve that. If it did, with the amount of people on statins, there would be less, and there's more. So that shows you that they are barking up the wrong tree. This is just false. All you got to do is look at what's going on. That will tell you what's true and not true. This happens quite a lot. To keep doctors from thinking about all these people with perfect numbers who nevertheless tragically suffer and sometimes die. The American Health Association explains that this happens due to something they call residual risk. They have rationalized this to death, and that's literally where it's gone. It's a term I think they came up with to try to convince us that the American Health Association has a handle on the situation and that we should probably all stay tuned to their channels, because very soon now they'll be coming up with a solution. In other words, it's another way of preventing doctors from thinking for themselves. This is what you and I, why we're on this journey together. We have to learn to think this through, to understand the body, and then apply nutrition to these principles. Having heart attacks in spite of a very low LDL is common occurrence. Around 2010, a majority, roughly 2/3 of people who had heart attacks had achieved low cholesterol numbers that were considered ideal at the time. So rather than questioning the idea that LDL cholesterol is the cause of heart attacks, the American Health Association and other medical leaderships upper the ante, moving from specific numerical goals to simply focusing on the maximum dosage of cholesterol lowering drugs. So you can read the rest. Fascinating, huh? I love this guy. He's really right on. From our standpoint, if you want to follow someone, yourself, your family, your clients, that's dealing with chronic high lipids in their blood, cholesterol and other fats in their blood, you can simply use the heart sound recorder. And you can watch their progression over time. And the way you do that is which I'm not going to give you a whole dissertation on the heart sound recorder. Remember, always look at the normal. The second sound should be 1/2 to 1/3 the height of the first. These are very simple principles. The work to rest ratio. Here's your work ratio, your rest 2 to 1, 2 to 1. And that should be in all 4 valves. In the aortic valve, if the second sound is equal to or higher than, that tells you this is the circulatory indicator. This means your blood is too thick. And in Western society, the main reason why the blood is too thick is because there's too much fat in the blood. Okay, whether it be other lipids, but mainly cholesterol. So, and these are the products, which, 2 of these products that are, so we are staying consistent with the heart sound recorder based on what we teach. And 2 of the main products that we're going to consider today is the soybean lecithin and the beta food. The only reason the blood thickens is 3 primary causes. Either there's too much calcium in the blood, there's too much fat in the blood, or there's too much incomplete protein. So these are your people that eat too much cooked food, which I'm not going to get into that today, but the number 1 is too much fat thickening the blood. So if you have a person in your running graphs, or you have your practitioner down the street that's running graphs, all of you should have your graphs run twice a year. At least twice a year. And your clients, all your clients. This way you can watch this. If they're chronically high here and you're applying nutrition and they're not getting better, then there's a good chance that their main arteries are occluding. They're closing in. So, and their chance, of problems with that is going to increase. Now, The other way to tell, so if you apply the 3 products, I'm going to give you the main 3 products today, which is Cyruta, Beta Food, and soybean lecithin, this should go down. That is the great thing about the heart sound recorder. It doesn't lie. It's not a muscle test that is somewhat subjective. This is telling you the actual case of that individual. This should go down if you apply those 3 products. Or it could be one of the other. If it doesn't, you could try one of the other products, the protofood that completes the protein and amino acid chain, or it could be something else. So, or it could be something to do with too much calcium in the blood, which is pretty rare. And so is the incomplete protein. It's the amount of lipid in the blood that is the key one here. So the other way that you can watch this is to go to Lifeline screening. I just went. I don't have my results to share with you yet. It hasn't come in. It takes a couple weeks. And they will tell you, they check as the carotid artery goes, so does the coronary. You remember that principle. They check you for abdominal aneurysms. They check you for poor peripheral circulation. They will even run blood work for you. They ran my cholesterol, which was low, 132 or something, which he said was great, but I don't think it is. So I'm checking into that more with me. Because mine used to be up where his was Dr. Carte's. Mine used to be around 260. So I'll have to figure that out for my body. But again, I've been doing some things that I'll review with you in case I am normal today. I'll mention those things that I've been doing. But one of the things that I do every day now is when I get up, come to the kitchen, put the tea kettle on, and I take 6 soybean lecithin. That's how I start my day. Then I wait a little bit, and then I take my protomorphogens, and then I'm off for the day. I take a lot of beta food. With my largest meal of the day, I take 6 beta food. So people could do three a meal. That's fine. And of course, I do take a lot of Cyruta and Cyruta Plus every day as well. But the main thing is you've got to find out, you've got to have a way without imposing medical tests. And of course, you can use blood work, that's fine. But there are other ways to check the blood work. And as the doctor said that I read from, he felt his was good. So you've got to find out a way. But if you have a chronic high second sound in the aortic, that is a red flag. That is, your blood is too thick and your body's going to deposit those lipids somewhere. So that has to be balanced. And the Lifeline screening, as I say, will tell you whether your arteries are narrowing and your capillaries. So, and it is so important when we get into cholesterol discussing this, which is such a huge topic for clients, that we also look at lifestyle of exercise, of moving the blood, right? One of the reasons that this blood gets too thick is the blood is stagnant, and that is a huge factor. You've got to move your blood, exercise, and it's intermittent fasting. Now, that's how I think. If mine is good and normal, it was because primarily of intermittent fasting, because I don't eat 17 hours. I eat after 17 hours every day, and I never miss. So, And at the end of this, I gave you a link to a YouTube lecture by a nurse practitioner, registered dietitian, who teaches you and tells you about how to intermittent fast. It's different for everyone, a little bit. There's different ways you can do it. Now, as far as food is concerned, of course, they say up to 20% of the influence of cholesterol is what you eat, but that's not the whole picture. That's a small part of it, isn't it? So, and but it does relate to whether you're going to normalize and balance or not. But first we have to decide, we have to agree what is normal and what is not. And this chart by Mark Anderson, along with some other PowerPoints here, and I'm very grateful for him to sharing these with me to share with you. These are the ones that we go by. So, of course, desirable, as I said, is 200, but it used to be 240. So, and anything above 240, they're saying is high. So, and then you can read through here the HDL, LDL, and the triglycerides. So you can also, if you want these readings, again, you can get this book, Mastering Nutrition with Blood Chemistry, and that will give you good balanced ranges. So we're not trying to get people down below 200. It's just not healthy. And again, another chart that goes through each of these ratios. Basically, they're the same thing, just a different way of looking at it. One of the things that's so important, and I was not able to download this full article, but I've joined Harvard Health now this morning, but I was not able to get it into this. If you want this whole article, just shoot me an email, I'll send it to you. But one of the things they're saying here is there's a real controversy between lowering cholesterol too much because it affects the brain. It sounds like a no-brainer. The lower your cholesterol, the better your health. When it comes to coronary artery disease, conventional wisdom is truly wise. New guidelines call for reducing LDL bad cholesterol levels to 70, which is hard to obtain, or lower for patients at highest risk. But a man's heart and his head don't always agree. In fact, the relationship among cholesterol levels, physiological function, and neurological disorders are complex. See what they're doing with these statins now, they've got people on, and people are having neurological and brain issues, memory, cognitive function issues. They are. And sometimes controversial. Well, we know that they are. How do cholesterol levels and cholesterol-lowering drugs affect the mind and the brain? So he goes into this article. They go into this article. Despite its well-deserved notoriety as a cause of heart disease, not true, but you know, it is a factor. It's not the main cause. Cholesterol is essential for human health. And it's good that they, even at Harvard, they're clarifying that lowering your cholesterol too much is going to be bad, not just for your brain, but for what else? Okay. It is the building block of steroid hormones, including the stress hormone, cortisol. If you have normal cholesterol levels, your incidences of these adrenal hormones that are so essential should pretty much stay balanced. If you lower your cholesterol too much, this stress hormone lowers, then you lose that balance in the endocrine function of your body. And the male and female sex hormones, including testosterone and the estrogens. And this is the point I want to make. Why don't young people have high cholesterol? Because they're making plenty of uh, hormones, testosterone in men, estrogen in women. They're making plenty. They're balanced. So why does it rise after 50 years old? Because we're not making them. So it is a normal occurrence. This is normal. The cholesterol rises as we get older. Cholesterol also is an essential component of the membranes that surround all human cells. Yes, the great cell protector are these lipid factors, fatty acids, as we've talked about, the vitamin F, the fish oils. Yes. Let me just mute everybody out here. Okay. Oops, hold on. Why isn't it muting out? Okay, did it. More than simply holding cells together, these membranes have a crucial role in regulating cell function and allowing chemicals to pass into and out of cells. So here is a very important piece of this, because this relates to longevity. How well do we age? If we lower our cholesterol levels, we do not age too much. We do not age well. And you can see it in people's skin. You can see it in their muscles. You can see it in their brain function. You can see it in their hair. All of the cells of the body need cholesterol. So I'm sorry I can't read more of that article, but so the three things we want to look at today is, if there is cholesterol buildup, what do we do? These are the three primary factors that medical science has missed. They do not address these factors. You have to dislodge from the blood vessels. Too much sticking to the blood vessels. You have to keep the cholesterol in solution so it can get to the liver. Then you have to get it out of the liver, out through the bowel. And these are the three primary products for that. And let's look at what Dr. Lee had to say about this. High blood cholesterol and its control. Now, when did he give this? Let me see, does it say here? 1956, he was already speaking about this. Cholesterol is a fatty substance that is important in human tissues. It is a sort of sealing compound. Here's what the more recent article that I just read you on the brain is. That is essential for controlling diffusion. Remember, I just read to you from the other article. To get materials in and out of the cellular network. Diffusion across the cell walls and blood vessel walls, by which these barriers, why are people fooling around on there? By which these barriers are so regulated as to permit a normal degree of diffusion and fluid interchange between the internal and external zones of the cells and vascular systems of the body. If there is a too greater transfer of solids, for instance, these toxins may leak into sensitive areas, such as proteins leaking from the blood capillaries into the cerebral spinal fluid, causing headaches. And whenever you read, this is why I love reading Dr. Lee's material. He always gives you a pearl of pearls. How many of you have thought, I hadn't thought till I reread this, I'd read this years ago, that this factor of this interchange in the bloodstream of lipids can be a factor in chronic headaches. Or the capillaries may fail to hold back the fluid content as normally as they should, and the patient develops low blood pressure. Now, we don't talk about low blood pressure much, but I've had cases over the years. You have called me about cases over the years that they cannot get these people's blood pressure up, no matter what. They've tried everything, Joe. Well, because the capillary, this interchange of these fluids, these critical, as he says, solids, is failing. Or if cholesterol levels rise unduly, blood pressure may become high. So they never fix the cholesterol issue. They just give them high blood pressure medications, which hasn't solved anything. You haven't fixed anything. You just lowered a number. Since blood pressure is automatically controlled to produce the right amount of diffusion of fluid from the capillaries for the amount of solids contained, and there is a compensative rise when the vascular wall becomes less permeable to serum. So you could think about his explanation, read it over a couple times and you'll understand it. He's talking about this balance, this beautiful balance of fluid. And my article on hypertension that's in Saline River Press, you can get it. I write blogs every month. I talk about this. Hypertension relates to fluid dynamics. If the fluid dynamic is right, the blood pressure will be right. It has to. It's the law of nature. I didn't make it up. Then the damage of capillary rupture from this higher blood pressure arises. So here's your chain of events with blood clots forming in the injured areas. These clots cannot float into a branch of, they can float into a branch of the coronary arteries, the larger arteries that supplies the heart, resulting in a consequent blockage or part of the heart muscle. The common coronary embolism or coronary thrombosis. Now, this can come from anywhere to the lungs, from anywhere in the body, from the vasculature breaking down anywhere. And so we're going to look at, I'm not going to read the rest of this, we're going to look at how we keep the integrity of these tissues. So that article was in Saline River Press. Now, Saline River Press now has all of Dr. Lee's applied trophologies. And these are great, and that they're all complementary. So the generosity of Saline River Press, as always, you just go to your historical archives. See this? You press on this, you can get into this. Recent reports show conclusively that hydrogenated fats are a common cause of high blood cholesterol. Why has blood cholesterol gone up in the last, say, 50 years? He gives you the answer. He starts out with the answer to the problem right there, which is a concomitant state in many chronic and serious disease syndromes, from cancer to eclampsia. Wow. Yeah. Diabetes, hypertension, many cardiovascular diseases, biliary obstructions, nephritis, nephrosis, lupus erythematosus, and a few. It's a which is autoimmune. He's saying that all coming out of these hydrogenated fats. It is probable that cholesterol is a secondary, not a primary reaction, but may bring in many side reactions that contribute to a fatal ending. He's saying that this is a part of it. Your doctor's going to tell you, your medical doctor's going to say, this is the main cause. No, it isn't. High cholesterol is not the main cause of anything. It is a factor, and that's why we look at it from a nutritional standpoint. For instance, diabetic coma is attributed to the high blood fat and cholesterol that occurs parallel to high sugar. Now, there is a statement I could lecture for an hour on that one sentence. There it is. We'll get into it a little bit here. Because when you begin to impose upon the body these death foods, then you understand why the cascade of events happens. Cholesterol estimation is considered a better index of the severity of diabetes than sugar estimated in blood. See how he makes these comparisons? Cholesterol has important physiological functions, and here again we'll go over the same as we looked at. It contributes structurally to the cell wall and semi-permeable membrane construction. This is why when they keep lowering the cholesterol, the body begins to fall apart. People age, as I say, too fast. This is why a cholesterol excess may result in hypertension. Too much pressure is compensatively necessary to force normal diffusion of fluid out of the capillary bed. Without this diffusion, cell nutrition is impossible. Drugs that lower this is 1956, drugs that lower the blood pressure without improving the permeability make the patient symptomatically worse. And here is really why I wanted to read this to you, because as you know, one of my favorite products is Orchex. Hyaluronidase. So the hyaluronidase is an enzyme in orchic tissue, which is in high amounts in Orchex, less in Minchex, in E2, Cataplex E2, all in here. Dr. Lee put it in several products for many reasons. And here is why. The so-called physiological spreading factor is one regulator of permeability and is the active principle of Orchex. Orchex often is invaluable in stubborn hypertension, but may not always be a complete remedy, simply again for the same reason that not all diabetics respond fully to insulin. Orchex should be considered, we believe, a physiological tranquilizer for both sexes. In fact, the female seems to react more favorably than the male when it's used for nervous insomnia, butterfly stomach, and other such conditions. So he goes into this, the other histamine factors related to hypertension as well. But we've already discussed that hypertension issue. And if there was something else here, no, he just goes into some other, but a great article. And I wanted to show you this that he was talking about. And Mark found this, which is incredible. This is you see all the red blood platelets? Do you see them here? This is see how the capillaries are single file, and then the arteries are much bigger. And then of course, these are feeding all wherever this is going. I don't know what part of the body it is. It's feeding all of these tissues, but a remarkable video here of how the body, as the heart beats, the blood flows to the tissues. And if the blood has too much lipid, then these nutrients cannot get the oxygen from the red blood cells, and other nutrients can't get to where they need to go. You see this single file factor? It's very fascinating. And I don't know the source of this, unfortunately, but I'll let it just play out here. Okay, so how do I get out of this here? Where am I here? Oh, there we go. And as we spoke, the medical science, the approach is all of these drugs. Nearly 3 in 5 American adults have a prescription drug, up markedly since 2000 because of much higher use of almost every type of medication, including antidepressants, treatments for high cholesterol and diabetes. And so this article, I tried earlier, I couldn't open it, but you can get this and try to open it. You can open it on your phone, but I can't get it on this use of statins. And I don't want to get into that today because I want to get to really the meat of what I want to teach you today. So remember we said that there are 3 primary factors related to cholesterol and the balance of cholesterol. You don't want it too low and you don't want it too high. They both are indicators. So how do you regulate this? Medical science, they use chemicals, but they have side effects. And wait till you read what this article says. And I apologize, I couldn't open it up, but I will next time because I have an account with Harvard now. So now remember, when we talk about the 3 products, the Cyruta, the soybean lecithin, and remember Mark explained this really well here. The Cyruta dislodges. Now, a lot of you are probably asking, well, why not Cyruta Plus? Cyruta Plus is fine, but Cyruta has, in the original formulation, it still does, it has the buckwheat, which we're going to talk a lot about buckwheat here, the buckwheat leaf and the seed. The Cyruta Plus is primarily the buckwheat leaf. So the seed factor in all foods, it's a core factor in giving you specific enzymes that help to break things down, such as cancer cells, abnormal cells, all kinds of aberrant cells, fibrotic cells. What is contained in the seed, the bitter part. Now, having grown up in New England and my father being Johnny Appleseed, he planted hundreds of apple trees and cared for them in his lifetime till he was 80. When they ate the apple, when they made apple cider, they put the seed, they ground up the seed. They ground up the whole apple, the skin, the whole apple. So, so these factors in seeds are very important. And this is why for this buildup of material on the arteries, to get that to dissolve, to dislodge and break down, not in big pieces, but gradually, just day by day, hour by hour, as these supplements work, it gradually just dislodges this material that builds up and leads to occlusion. So that's where the seed comes in. That's why we use Cyruta. Then you have to keep it in suspension. Otherwise, it's just going to move a little bit and then stick somewhere else. It's a very sticky substance, and it's looking to stick somewhere, cholesterol. And that's why the term is used, sticky blood. And we'll look at that too, which is a very important factor. And then the elimination. So here's your soybean lecithin, and here's your beta food. But let's just go back to this article here. Diets that contain buckwheat have been linked to lowered risk of developing high cholesterol and high blood pressure. Why? Because there's two things going on. It's dislodging and the material that is closing in that artery, and it's giving you the vitamin C, the P factor in the buckwheat leaf that repairs, so that the cholesterol doesn't need to. The body says, oh, this is repairing because I have the right nutrient, so I don't need to plug this hole. I don't need to build this up. So the buckwheat leaf and seed does two different significant things to maintain normalcy. Lowered risk of developing high cholesterol and high blood pressure. The Yi people of China, apologies if I didn't pronounce that right, consume a diet high in buckwheat, 100 grams per day, 3 to 5 ounces. When researchers tested blood lipids in 805 Yi Chinese, they found that buckwheat intake was associated with lower total serum cholesterol, lower low density lipoprotein cholesterol, LDL. That's the bad. The form linked to cardiovascular and high blood promoting total. Buckwheat's beneficial effects are due in part to its rich supply of flavonoids, particularly rutin. Now, remember, John Courtney, when we were first learning about these products, he would say, Joe, teach them that it is very high in rutin, hesperetin, and quercetin. Those are the flavonoids that Cyruta and Cyruta Plus are high in. Flavonoids are phytonutrients that protect against disease by extending the action of vitamin C. You know what? It's great that they recognized that when they said vitamin C, they didn't say ascorbic acid, which is good, because ascorbic acid will not do this. So let's look at what Dr. Lee said. And this is in your product bulletins, which you can get from, again, Salim River Press carries this book now. I think it's $35. Be the best $35 you've ever spent. I live in this book every day. So what would you use Cyruta for? Well, let's see. Remember, I've read you Dr. Lee saying that, you know, the imbalance of cholesterol can create hypertension. Here it is. Remember he said about headaches. Here it is. Back pain, pain in back of head, throbbing sensations, vertigo, and chronic fatigue. Do you know how many calls I get about people with vertigo? And getting them on Cyruta Plus or Cyruta in this case, in the case of vertigo, really works well. Arterial sclerosis. Arteriosclerosis, that narrowing, vertigo, tinnitus, ringing in the ears, loss of memory, repetitiousness. Why? Remember we looked at the blood flow? Because parts of the body, if they're not getting that blood flow, these are the things that are going to happen. Dizziness, ringing in ears. Forgot where you put your car keys, your phone, and you start saying things over and over. Circulatory disorders, capillary fragility, people that are bruising all the time. Now you could ask the question, when maybe some of you are, well, if people are on blood thinners, can they use Cyruta? Yes. Can they use Cyruta Plus? Yes. Can they use beta food? Yes. Can they use soybean lecithin? Yes. These three products are fine with people on blood thinners. Capillary fragility. If your skin, if you're bruising, if your gums are bleeding, if you have poor circulation in your toes and your fingers, know that it's happening in the larger arteries too. The larger arteries are getting cracks. They're leaking. Remember that leakage that we talked about earlier. And that is the flag for cholesterol to come and build up there. It's a repair mechanism, but the body overdoes it. bruising from just a very slight trauma. Healing processes, inflammatory conditions, rheumatoid arthritis. You wouldn't think using Cyruta for rheumatoid arthritis would be applicable. He explains it right here. By acting to mobilize calcium for blood coagulation and connective tissue, I don't know why that's in there. I think that was just a typo from SUE here. And also to mobilize cholesterol from tissue deposits. And that is the seed factor. Cyruta is useful in all problems dealing with capillary fragility and promotion of arterial elasticity. Wow. What happens when we age? Our arteries become like straws. They don't stay like flexible hose. They get stiff like straws. This is how you prevent it. Problems found primarily in the geriatric group afflicted with arterial sclerosis changes, hypertension, narrowing and stiffening, right? And arthritic tendencies. One product, all of that. Health benefits attributed to buckwheat include plasma cholesterol level reduction. Again, another study. Nuclear protective, anti-cancer. Well, wait a minute, you can't make that claim. Why not? Anti-inflammatory. Because if you're giving the nutrient to the tissue, the inflammation goes away. The only reason the inflammation is there is because it's malnourished. It doesn't have the repair factors. And so inflammation is a normal occurrence, at least initially, until the repair factors are there. You don't have that P factor, that vitamin C, that quercetin, the rutin, the hesperetin, the inflammation is just going to stay. Anti-diabetic effects. Why? Because sugar breaks down the little blood vessels and the larger ones. People go blind. They have to get their toes cut off. And improvement of hypertension conditions. Yes, if the arteries become more flexible, they're not so stiff, and they're not narrowing, the blood pressure, the flow of fluids, i.e. blood, normalizes. In addition, buckwheat has been reported to possess prebiotic and antioxidant. Now, that word is really been so confusing. You don't want to stop oxidation. You want to bring back cellular integrity. So instead of antioxidant, I like to use words that describe benefits at the cellular level. So activities. In vitro animal studies of buckwheat, bioactive compounds such as cytoprotective was the word, I couldn't think of it. When you, instead of antioxidant, use cytoprotective, such as D-chiroinositol, buckwheat proteins, flavonoids, mainly rutin and quercetin, may be particularly responsible for the observed effects. It's amazing how much. And here it is with citrus flavonoids too. These ranges of flavonoids are significant. Now, the number one comes from the buckwheat leaf and seed, just so you know. But daily treatment of improved cardiovascular parameters, 2P and the significant reduction. So, oh yeah, shown in total cholesterol, lowered cholesterol 20 to 30%, LDL 20 to 7%, and this protein B 20%, and triglycerides, it lowered up to 35% just by using these flavonoids. Let's see if this one will open and I can read it. So here is, again, these extracts from the buckwheat leaf, the Cyruta plus. Quercetin, a common member of the flavonoid family, is widely present in plant kingdom. Despite that, quercetin is implicated in regulating cholesterol metabolism. I love it when they phrase things where it just describes its balancing. It's not, nature doesn't jerk things around, high, low. Nature regulates. Nature knows. It's inherent in food, the balance that is needed. The molecular mechanism is properly understood. We hypothesize that quercetin regulated cholesterol homeostasis through regulating the key enzyme involved in hepatic cholesterol metabolism. Now, why I picked this article was that sentence. Because someone with a cholesterol issue does not have hepatic metabolism, the ability to metabolize these fats properly. And here it is. If you can get the body to regulate the metabolism of cholesterol through hepatic function, you're there. And it's not something that is going to go away. It's something that's going to reestablish itself and stay. You may have to take the nutrients for the rest of your life, but it will maintain it. So I'm not going to read all of this, but you can read through this article. Very, very well written. And so that is your that finished the Cyruta plot. Now we're getting into the factor of how these lipids get out. Once they're metabolized through the liver, how they get out of the body. And they get out through the biliary system. Okay, and here is the key to beta food with cholesterol. Now, the reason I don't, and some of my other colleagues don't use AF beta food, you could, because there's not enough of the betaine in there to really have a clinical, influence of note. It will help some, but you have to bring out the big guns if you're really going to do this. So what did Dr. Lee? Again, the products bulletin. Influence to fats or gas-producing foods, nausea, flatulence, jaundice, right? Remember, if a person has gas, either, proteins are not digesting, carbohydrates, or fats. Here it is. Portal hypertension. Remember, in my book, I used the Antranex test, right? This helps as well. Signs of liver disease, such as veins showing on the chest and abdomen, venous congestion. Remember that diagram, the video I showed you. If you get too much fat, then you get less and less good circulation, and you get what's called venous congestion. You can see it. Look at people's chests and see if they have veins showing. They shouldn't. That is telling you. That's a great way to, a good symptomatology to observe. Should not have veins showing in your chest and your abdomen. Hypoglycemia, craving for sweets, eating of which relieves symptoms. And here is the key, because beta food, and we'll get into that when I teach my pancreas talk in March. Beta food is the best regulator of the best food regulator. You can use milk thistle as well, of regulating how much sugar is going into the blood. Beta food is your key product. And then, of course, your hypoglycemia, also high blood fat remaining elevated for a long, prolonged period of time. There's the high second sound in the aortic. Liver insufficiencies, alcoholic stool, that light-colored stool, or chronic constipation. All of that is indication of poor bile flow. If the bile is too thick and it's not flowing, it is not going to get the fat out. Then the cholesterol can get reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. It should get out of the system completely. The empirical use of beet leaf juice in gallbladder disorders has long been known. Very few know it. We do, but very few in the world know it. We now believe this can be rationalized on the basis of the naturally occurring betaine highest when grown on ammonia-rich soils, which Standard Process grows their beets and their beet leaves on the soil, on high ammonia-rich soils. That's why Lee chose to have the farms and the plant where they are because of the quality of the soil. He thought of everything from the soil up as far as bringing you these food concentrates. So, and this is why I said to you, the difference between beta food and AF beta foods. Nothing wrong with AF beta food, don't get me wrong. But you need this betaine, the highest content you can get of this. This is the one that the athletes are going crazy over this right now because it helps with performance. How? Regulates blood sugar, keeps your blood sugar up, keeps your circulation open, keeps your liver functioning while you're exercising. Apparently, the intermediate process concerning conversion of blood fat to sugar. See, this is how it regulates how much sugar or not is going to be in the blood, and its utilization is concerned. This locally concerns itself with bile, viscosity, and liver function. And this is the key to cholesterol here, to get it out of the body. The high blood fat following meals being a cause of not only discomforting symptoms, but probably contributing to reported deleterious effects of arterial sclerosis. Recall that the diabetic characteristically has an elevated cholesterol reading. If you're working with diabetics, these 3 products, but especially this one, is crucial. This is going to help 2 things, help regulate and balance 2 primary things. That conversion of blood fat to sugar, so the body isn't calling for too much glucagon, too much more sugar. Of course, they have to change their diet, of course, but we're not talking about blood sugar today. This article, packed with iron, calcium, betaine, B vitamins, vitamin C, beets are one of the liver's best resources of maintaining optimal health. Beets improve liver function largely by thinning. So the bile, allowing it to flow more freely through the liver and into the small intestine. This is why the athletes are going for it. This is why anyone with gallstones, anyone with high cholesterol, they must be on this. So the other that I wanted to take a minute and show you, which is going to be quick here. How's my time doing? Oh, good. I'm just got a little bit more here. This is some recent findings. The relationship between increasing levels of LDL cholesterol and the risk of coronary disease has long been established. Not to mention the chest pain and heart attacks it can lead to. The importance of eating cleaner, exercise more, quit smoking. Yes, oxidative is on the radar of both. This is what I wanted to say, though. Oh, here it is. given that gut health is so important for our healthy health systemically, could an intervention as simple as taking a probiotic supplement help lower cholesterol levels? Researchers have asked this very question, and their findings suggest that yes, certain probiotics do seem to lower cholesterol levels. Now, why? Because after the liver biliary factor has happened, you have to get it out through the bowel, the high levels of cholesterol, especially what they call bad cholesterol. You have to get it out your body. And this is the end part of this cycle that is so important. And now they're finding it to be, they talk about these studies. The ratio of bad to good cholesterol in the intervention group was also reduced by almost 13%, almost 13.5%. Although triglycerides in the form of cholesterol highly influenced the blood sugar were not unchanged in highly sensitive C-reactive people with a lot of inflammation. So that's C-reactive protein is inflammation, a marker of inflammation. Yeah. So, and you can read through the rest of this article. It's fascinating. You know, and they found that, just so you know, the people were that had animals and people that had poor microflora, intestinal microflora, had higher levels of cholesterol. The main function of the gallbladder is to eject bile produced by the liver into the intestine in order to break down fats, similar to how soap and water wash olive oil off your hands. Much more effectively than water alone, bile salts act like soap, breaking down fats and oils in the digestive tract. The conversion of cholesterol to bile acids, oh, they're going on to what I've just talked about. But anyway, and there's one more article too that I want to get to here related to this. This is the one that was really fascinating. 2 doses of a probiotic lowered key cholesterol-bearing molecules in the blood as well. Yeah, because it wasn't recycling. That's why it was so significant. That's why it worked. Because it doesn't recycle back into the bloodstream. If those lipids hang around in the gut long enough, even the large intestine, it'll go back into the bloodstream. Cholesterol-bearing molecules in the blood, as well as bad and total cholesterol, in a study presented at the American Heart Association Scientific Sessions 2012. Well, thanks for sharing this with us, everyone. Yeah, you don't hear any, does your medical doctor talk to you about this? No. I guess they weren't there, or they don't read, or they don't understand. Probiotics are live occurring bacteria in the gut thought to have beneficial effects. Common sources are yogurt and dietary supplements. Yeah. And anyway, I'll let you read through this one as well. But the key one that they were saying is, so which range of probiotic? It was the lactobacillus. So there's your lactans. Acidophilus, lactobacillus acidophilus, and bifidus is in lactans, just so you know. Now, the other main product that we like to use is lactic acid yeast, which also has very high amounts of that lactobacillus bacteria. And that converts carbohydrate back into lactic acid. So both of those products are key, which we're not discussing that today, but I wanted to give you this other crucial part because these are the missing pieces that nobody talks about much. That's why I wanted to share them with you. These are the missing pieces that help to provide that total encompassment of the person that's struggling and doesn't want to get on the statins. And here is the other one that they're, now this is by the American Thyroid Association. The thyroid gland is regulated by thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, which is produced by the pituitary gland at the base of the brain. Now remember, the hypothalamus tells the pituitary to make it, and the pituitary makes it. Now, I have to check on that because I thought it was made in the hypothalamus and then stored in the pituitary and then released. But anyway, we don't have to think about that right now. TSH stimulates the thyroid to make thyroid hormones to secrete them into the blood. The thyroid hormone controls the body's metabolism. Remember, right at the beginning of this hour, we talked about how key metabolism is in relationship to cholesterol and can affect cholesterol levels. If your blood is moving well, then your blood is efficient. It's not harboring things that you don't want hanging around. There are several types of cholesterol, including LDL cholesterol, associated with heart disease, HDL, good cholesterol, protect against hearts. When thyroid hormone levels are low and TSH levels are increased, hypothyroidism, cholesterol levels are increased. And they go on, they looked at some studies. In China, they did. TSH has an effect on cholesterol levels on its own in the presence of normal thyroid hormone levels. So you know, we've looked at a lot with this, not just the significance of liver function, but intestinal function. And now, of course, the big piece is the endocrine function that regulates all the function of the system by which cholesterol stays normalized. Now, to end here, the reason I put it at the end is really it's not the most significant because they all work in harmony together, these three products, Cyruta, Beta Food, and soybean lecithin. But this is that middle piece of keeping the cholesterol in solution. Here's what Dr. Lee said. You could use Cyruta Plus for joint muscle stiffness, morning bursitis, cramps, soreness, hypertension, and hypotension, both, because this product assists in regulating that autonomic nervous system function. Digestive symptoms, gallbladder syndrome, nausea, intolerance to fats, because what does soybean lecithin have in it? Phosphatidylcholine. As choline emulsifies fat. These are your people with that have fatty livers, which is more than we think. Mental symptoms, again, you know, the lowered metabolism. So possible phosphorus deficiency states related to calcium carbonate deposits and viscosity of synovial fluids. So these are the fluids primarily in the joints, spine, shoulders, hips, knees. Related to transportation of fat and its deposits. Neurological integrity, in which lecithin may precipitate as a nerve factor. So it has phosphatidylcholine in it, but also phosphatidylserine. And you know what they say medically, I didn't look it up to give it to you, but you can look it up. Phosphatidylserine is the main ingredient naturally occurring in food substances that they say helps prevent Alzheimer's, dementia. Look it up. Lecithin complements the action of bile by its emulsifying properties. Remember, they use the analogy in the beta food of using soap, to break the olive oil off your hands. Same principle, as well as promoting nerve integrity for establishment of neurological control. Blood supply to the brain. Lecithin contains phosphorus and choline, lipotropic factors. Now, why do we use soybeans? There is no hormonal influence in this product. There is no goitogenic factors in this product because there's no protein in it and there's no hormone in it. Because soybeans are the best. They carry the most lecithin of any food on earth. And that's why we've had it, this product. And why is lecithin so important when we talk about cholesterol in the brain? The body's highest concentration of lecithin is found in the vital organs, where it makes up about 30% of the dry weight of the brain. Are you kidding? That's Encyclopedia Britannica. And nearly 2/3 of the fat in the liver. You mean 2/3 of my liver is lecithin? Yes. 1/3 of my brain is lecithin? Yes. Do you think we need to take lecithin? So here is what it does. It acts as a viscous emulsifier, and it mixes with the cholesterol in the blood. It keeps cholesterol suspended, preventing adherence to blood vessels. It allows the bloodstream to float or deliver cholesterol to the liver for disposal through the bile. And we already went over that. The results showed a reduction of almost 40% and 42% in total cholesterol, LDL, 56 LDL as a treatment. I'm not going to, you can read through all of these. And what did they use? They used 500 milligrams a day of lecithin, by the way, in these studies. 1 pearl of soybean lecithin is 365 milligrams. 1. We recommend what? 3 in the morning, 3 at noon of the lecithin is what we recommend. So you can go through these studies and read about, but you've got my main point. In addition to being used to reduce cholesterol and triglycerides and protect the liver in the prevention of kidney stone formation. Did you catch that, Pearl? Kidney stones. Because of the phosphorus in there, the phosphatidylcholine. It is used as a tonic for the nervous system and the brain activities. There's your acetylcholine. So more studies. Now I wanted to finish with this one story. I was in a doctor's office a few years ago, and she has this this woman who was working at the front desk has this condition called hypercholesterolemia, a genetic disorder that is passed down to families. It is too much bad cholesterol. Her cholesterol was up like 600. And the only way she could do to get rid of it, to keep it balanced so she stayed alive, was this apheresis. Okay. So I said to her, well, if you can't, if you could keep the cholesterol in solution and get it out through your bowel with your assistance of the liver, see, they don't have the factors in the liver that break it down, then you could lower this. So she was going for this apheresis, and this is the byproduct that they take out of the cholesterol out of her blood. It used to, when she was going twice a week. And by the way, these sessions were $2,500 each, $5,000 a month. Of course, she had insurance. After one apheresis treatment, look at the concentration, because the lecithin kept it in the blood. See that? There it is. And she went down to once a month. She was thrilled. I haven't connected with her lately. And this article just tells you about apheresis, which I'm not going to read now. So, and again, more studies related to this. Lecithin, a preparation obtained from soy, could be administered for prevention or treatment of atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries. Hardening and thickening of the arteries, both. So, and also lowering triglycerides. And I'll let you read through all of these. But the sad thing is all of these studies that they do, they never mention lecithin. And that's what those two, not a single mention. They'll mention red rice yeast and other things and the drugs, but they never mention the greatness of lecithin. So here are the books. I mentioned about the dark side of statin. That's a great book you should read so that you can educate your clients. The cholesterol myth. This is that medical doctor, astronaut, and of course the dark side of statins. Oh, and this space doc Don. So if you want to make your case with your clients, these are the references you could give them for books to read. So, and finally, the best book, in my opinion, is our wonderful friend Judith Takava that you can get through Saline River Press for $12. And she also, I don't know if Lynn put in the chat box the articles that from her newsletters. First she wrote the book and then she wrote the newsletters on cholesterol. So you've got plenty of studying and reading to do if you want to do it, learn more. But I've given you the three basic things. Dislodge it, hold it in solution, then get it out of the body. Those are the three primary things. And this is that intermittent fasting YouTube. Get on this. And that really helps people with high cholesterol. So we have time for questions. Let's see. Yep. I'm happy to take a little time with you if some of you have questions.
Joe, how do you get the research articles that you mentioned?
Well, the different research articles that I get that you can go online and get yourself and read the whole article. I simply Google them and then I find the article and I try to get it from either Harvard or WebMD or just, you know, not so much different doctors that are trying to sell you something, but actually just independent studies. So it's simply to Google. I just, you know, like, you know, I just Googled statins and the brain. And this is what popped up, this Harvard article. Okay.
Joseph,
Yes,
fabulous presentation. Thank you. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
My question is the, I believe it was the Saruta. I just want to verify with quercetin. That's one of the highest products.
Yes, the highest product in standard process with quercetin is is Cyruta. Yes.
Saruta. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Because that quercetin is critical for mast cell and for inflammation in the body and so forth. So that's awesome to do Saruta instead of Saruta Plus.
Right. That's right. That's right. There's, you know, Cyruta Plus, you think more of bruising, nosebleeds. But when you get into, if someone has had a heart attack or a stroke or has high cholesterol, Cyruta is your key. This is how I gauge this in my mind. Which one should I use? I want to give them the highest amount of betaine I can get, I can give to them. And the concentration, I don't know how many beets and root and leaf are in, you know, 6 Cyruta, but it's a lot. And I could get that. It's pounds. It's a lot of concentration. But if you're adding in vitamin A and vitamin F, then you're taking only a third of that product is Cyruta,
Right.
is the buckwheat. So factors. So it's just how you want to use it. I'm sorry, not A and F. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused. Cyruta Plus. It does not have the seeds or the inositol. So, yeah.
Okay.
Joseph,
Yes.
is the chat disabled or?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
That's because I'm recording, and I don't want people interrupting me. Yeah.
okay. How about the notes? Are you going to post all these
Yes.
slides?
So I have created a YouTube channel, and the gentleman that's doing this for me, it will be posted. I'll give you the link to it next week as soon as we get all of these recordings with the notes, when we get them all loaded onto my YouTube channel. Yes.
Okay, so the chat is disabled, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know that it is actually, Joseph. So, and it's
Oh.
Lynn. And my question is, do you want me to
It says it is, Lynn.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe because I'm host, it allows me to see everyone.
You got it.
But my question is, Joseph, I got the notes, I got the PowerPoint from Ellen and turned it into a PDF. Do you want me to go ahead and download that for people today? Or do you want
Yeah,
them to
sure.
wait?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which article was that? The brain?
No. Your PDF, your whole presentation in a
Oh,
PDF.
yes. Yeah, you could do that. Give that to them in the chat box now, or
Yes.
they could email me and I'll send it to them. Yep.
Oh, great, thanks.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that to show up in the chat box.
Joseph,
Well-
I have a question when you're ready.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so a quick, I'm probably going to have her on next week as far as the HSR, but when you're talking about the beta food, I had to figure out which one to apply. So this patient is on thyroid meds. We're really working with her cholesterol well, just naturally with the application from HSR.
Right.
But I have not applied yet the soybean less than because it wasn't called for with, the autonomic value because she actually is normal.
Right.
But I know that I could apply that, but I didn't apply the beta food because she has no gallbladder. I chose to do the Cholecol. And I wanted you to kind of talk on that when you're trying to decide between which one. I guess we could muscle test, but where
Great
are your
point.
thoughts on that? Because
Yeah.
she does not have a high second sound in the aortic at all. And it's a
Good.
beautiful aortic valve. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. But her cholesterol just recently went, just from nutrition support, it went from 240 to 180 just naturally. Isn't that beautiful?
Excellent. Excellent. Wow.
Not that 180 is getting a little lower, but she's not doing anything unnatural. She's on high blood pressure meds.
No,
but
listen, if she goes to her medical assistant, doctor or nurse practitioner, they're going to give her a pass. They're not going to try to push the statins. That's great.
right.
But-
He just called her and said, he's like in his 80s, I guess. It's a little town in Iowa. And he told her, he says, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's a great question and discussion about the beta food when they don't have a gallbladder. Certainly you can use it to continue to thin that bile out, but once you don't have a gallbladder, you don't have enough bile salts. So, and that's a problem because when you eat a meal, you don't make enough bile salts to break down the lipids, the fat in that meal. And so that's an issue. That's why the body has a gallbladder, which has stored bile salts. So once that's gone, then what happens with people is they will get a fatty liver because they are not breaking down fats. And so most people, and we looked at that a while back, most people that have had their gallbladder, I think it's 70%. It's a very high amount that have had their gallbladder removed, eventually end up with a fatty liver. And if you want to see symptomatology, that you're looking at clients and thinking, geez, they have this, they have this, they have this, they have this. Most of it ties back to a fatty liver. So the product you would use that has purified bile salts is Cholecol. And that person, that's why Mark Anderson says it's a life sentence. It's a life sentence to once you've had your gallbladder removed, you have to be on bile salts the rest of your life. Even if you took one a meal, some people need more than that, but usually one at the most, 2 per meal. It's a real fatty meal, you would take 2. And the way you can tell if you get, this is the fun, not funny, but this is the interesting thing. People that have had these liver biliary, especially gallbladder issues, they usually have they've had constipation issues most of their life. They remove the gallbladder and you put them on, you put them, because they had such thick bile, you put them on the Colacol, then their bowels are too loose. So that is the gauge if you're giving them too many bile salts. But remember, just to finish this conversation, the way you break down fat is a bile molecule must attach to that fat molecule. Otherwise, you don't break down fat. That's why bile salts are so critical. So now, if you have a gallbladder and you're just using beta food, usually that thins it out enough. It thins the bile out enough that you use the bile salts you're making and stored more efficiently. So, okay. So does that answer your question?
Joe,
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
okay,
Yes.
Joe, I got one question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay. So, like, do we need to take like 3 Colacol and 3 Zypan every meal?
Well, if are you talking about cholesterol or working with cholesterol or just digestion in general?
Just digestion.
Yeah, digestion yes, in general, if you're eating if you're like in the morning, you get up, you're just having a shake, you don't need to take anything for that. But if you're eating a full, say you get up and you have breakfast and you have 2 or 3 eggs, you have sausage, and and maybe you have broccoli, or you don't have toast or pancakes or anything with that, but just you eat a good protein meal with some vegetables, you definitely want to take beta food and Zypan with that meal. Zypan to break down the protein in the eggs and the sausage or the bacon, and to break down the fat, you need beta food. Remember what they said about the beet leaf tops, about the betaine, that it helps to break down those fats even on into the intestinal tract. So it just doesn't happen in the first part of the digestive system, but all the way through. So that's why when you carry the cholesterol, these tremendous amount of fats, of cholesterol to the liver, then if you with using the soybean lecithin, if you can carry as much as you can out of that bloodstream, you saw how it's suspended in the case of that woman with the hypercholesterolemia, right? You saw that big pocket. That's because the soybean lecithin helped keep it suspended enough so it gets to the liver. Then the liver has to begin to break it down. And the bowel has to also support, and that's why probiotics are good, so that the cycle is complete all the way through until they poop it out. They've got to get rid of this fat. Otherwise, if you don't have the good probiotics, at the end, those fats just get reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. Now, not all of them, but no wonder their digestive systems are so inefficient. And that's why, products like Zypan, like beta food, like probiotics are important to take every day, especially if you're eating a lot. Now, if you go to a intermittent fasting, you will find you're not going to be eating as much because you don't eat for 17 hours. So say you eat at 5 o'clock at night and 5 o'clock in the morning is 12. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. So then you eat at noon the next day, you pretty much are down to 2 meals a day. You will find if you do the intermittent fasting that you will not be as hungry and you will not eat as much at a meal. You won't be gouging yourself, because if you give the digestive system a break, that's why they call it break fast. You're breaking the fast of resting your digestive system for a period of time, 10, 12, 17 hours. That makes your digestive system a lot more efficient. But as we age, Dr. Keim, as an example, they say after 50 years old, you're only producing 25% of the hydrochloric acid you were producing at 25 years old, unfortunately. So that's why you need the Zypan. You need the pancreatic enzymes in the Zypan. You need the pepsin in the Zypan, and you need that beta food. If you look at all of the older people that grew up, my dad and my mother, they ate beets their whole life. My dad used to grow them in his garden and pickle them and eat them all winter. They grew up with these ways of honoring these foods. They didn't know what it did, but they both lived till 90. My mother lived till 91. So, you know, other generations knew this before, you know, the market that is full of dead, empty foods now. So
I got one more thing,
sure.
one more question. I have DVT, right? And then I just echo what you were talking about in the beginning of this webinar. I always have the chronic, the aortic to the second sound are really high since I began the program.
Yeah.
And so in the end, I had DVT. I don't know what, but I try to figure out the reason. So Monday, my medical doctor did COVID-19, the antigen test, because I told her like, hey, you know what? If I have COVID-19, I could have blood clot. So that's why I had DVT. So I did that. I do not have antigen and antibody, and then I do not have COVID-19. And so now, why do I have blood clot? I mean, you know, and then in
Are
the
you still
HSI,
getting them?
it's still,
I thought that cleared and it didn't come back. Are they coming back?
yes, it's clear. No, it's gone now. But I just want to find out what's the reason why, in 54 years old, I will get a blood clot. And
Well, it's what I outlined in the beginning. And you're listening by your phone, right? You weren't looking at
yes,
the, yeah. So because for some reason, whatever you were doing in your lifestyle, what you were eating or not, I believe with you is you were not exercising. You had the stagnant blood
okay,
and you obviously weren't taking products that were building those, they weren't restoring the integrity of your blood vessels. And so you were getting a buildup of plaque, and then the plaque breaks off and plugs up the arteries, and you can form blood clots if it gets jammed up in the arterial system. And so that's what I think happened to you. It was not one thing, but the fact that you still have a high second sound is telling us that your blood is still too thick. That's what that is telling us. So we're going to have to, once you get back, you're going to have to, get on the phone with me or somebody and figure out what
yeah,
you're doing. It could be protein, maybe it isn't too much fat in your blood, but I would have to look at your blood work your cholesterol and your, other blood work to see what's going on there.
Joseph,
You know
can I
what?
piggyback?
Joseph,
You-
yeah, Joseph, I'm
Because I went to the cardiologist, and then he said you had something, the plaque in the aortic arch, and
Yeah,
but he said,
yeah.
oh, nothing major. You need to come in 10 years to check. And
No,
so
no, you should
and
be going
yeah.
to Lifeline screening once a year.
I did. I went there. It's perfect. Everything is perfect. And so I really think, with the taking HSR and taking all the supplements, plus I'm doing intermittent fasting. And you know what? When I begin to do the 18-hour window and only eat 6 hours, and then my weight, I did drop
cut this
12
off.
pounds in 6 weeks. So, that worked.
Yeah, well, once you get back to where I know you're on the road right now, just send us a graph and then we'll look at it and discuss that on a Tuesday. Yeah.
Can I piggyback
Okay,
on that,
sounds
Joseph?
Yeah, go ahead.
So thinking about when you think about, I was going to ask this anyway about that woman that had high cholesterol and no longer does, but she's still on blood thinners. She's not taking statins. But I was thinking about your past conversations about ginkgo. So I've been telling her, I made a concoction for her she has some digestive issues as well. So I made chamomile, schisandra, ginkgo.
Right.
And I was going to ask you, and some coleus because she has some weight issues. But the ginkgo part, in my opinion, you always talk about its WD-40. Is that almost like a replacement of aspirin, or can you explain that thought process?
Well,
I mean, I'm
yeah,
not saying that
aspirin has, salicylic acid has blood thinning properties. But the problem with aspirin is over time, it breaks down, it irritates the lumen of the inside the blood vessel, the outer cover of the blood vessel. That's the problem with aspirin. And you can look up, I've read to you articles about that. They are discouraging aspirin use now. So this is where, they're trying to fix something with a chemical instead of fixing it with a nutrient that's going to restore the integrity of the lumen. And that's the flavonoids, the quercetin, the rutin, and the asparagine from the Cyruta or the Cyruta Plus. So there's that. No, I would not compare aspirin to ginkgo. Ginkgo simply lubricates the red blood cells so they move through the lumen more easily. And that's why I use the analogy of WD-40. You see, the red blood cells, if the liver function is not good, your red blood cells, it affects everything, but the red blood cells get sticky. They call it sticky blood. And that's where you have to use nutrients that unstick that. And that is vitamin F. And as far as a vitamin is concerned, that's your vitamin F. As far as an herb is concerned, ginkgo, which does not thin the blood, it just makes the movement of blood more efficient. And so that is, and then, other nutrients help with that too. Nutrients that help with vasodilation, cataplex G, niacin, other certain ranges of the B vitamins are going to help. But if you have this chronic sticky blood, that's probably what's going on with Dr. Kime. So we'll look at that when she gets home. And we're going to have to get her on either the ginkgo liquid or the tablets, and then see if you have sticky blood, your blood tends to remain too thick. So she's on all these things that should lower that second sound. And if it's not, we have to keep going. And that was the first thing. And it's funny you mentioned it while she was talking, because that's the first thing I thought of. Oh, she has sticky blood,
Joseph,
It may not be all the factors. I mean, but it's probably one of the factors.
And she's
Because-
probably on your brain blend. I'm sure she's on it because she listened to you about that for a while. But I'm just thinking your thoughts and bringing that together. So that makes a lot of sense, especially with the Cyruta.
Right. But the amount of ginkgo in my brain blend may not be enough. Or maybe we need to put it together for her, get her on the vitamin F, that's why, by the way, to lower cholesterol, what do they say? To use fish oils helps lower cholesterol because the vitamin F factor in the fish oils helps that stickiness of the blood, which helps move not only the red blood cells, but because if you've got a lot of, remember the video that I showed you, if you get a lot of fat molecules in those blood vessels mixed in with the red, then that is like a traffic jam of great proportion. So you've got to put it together to make sure the red blood cells are moving efficiently so they can move the fat molecules out with them, So
Yep,
I hope
analogy.
you're understanding what I said.
Great.
Yeah.
No, great analogy, Joseph. Thank you.
Joseph, this is Dr. Sue Massey. I was working with Dr. Keim and helped her with her blood clots, and she does have sticky blood. You're absolutely right. The red blood cells in her spleen and so forth.
Yeah, yeah.
I-
And yet there's another factor with her. We haven't even talked about the spleen.
She's got a spleen issue, huge. and I
Yeah,
talked to
yeah,
her
there
about
you
that a
go.
couple
Well,
months ago. So
right. So she has a combination of factors, and for a while she was not exercising. I have to tell you, once you hit 50, you have got to get out and walk every day. If you don't, you're going to end up in trouble. You can't just exercise hard once or twice or 3 times a week. You've got to move your blood every day. All the blue zone people, all the studies they've done of people that have lived over 100 years old, they all get out and move at least once or even twice a day. They get out and they walk after meals. So you look at get the Blue Zone books and read how these people do it. Of course, they eat a lot of vegetables too. So
in Dr. Keim's case, and anyone with thick blood, the vitamin, mineral, and light protein, would that be spleen, F, and then mineral, or what would you think on that?
yeah, I would definitely probably start her with Cataplex F tablets, but maybe her liver is not converting them, and the vitamin F factor isn't as the body's not able to use it as well. So maybe we would give her Super EFF.
that's what
I just don't know. I don't know with her, and then you would definitely give her the the vasodilating products. It could be that her blood vessels just are getting too rigid, or they're just not opening when her heart, her heart contracts and pushes the blood, or her blood vessels are getting like straws. They're too stiff. There's not that flexibility, or again, the blood is just it's too thick because it doesn't have the right factors to move it. So
she has inflammation. That's the biggest problem.
yeah,
what's
well,
the mineral?
right.
What's the mineral, Joseph, that you're suggesting?
So the herb would be the ginkgo. The vitamin would be the vitamin F. The protein would be
PMG.
either spleen PMG or dermatrophin. Dr. Lee talked about dermatrophin being way underused with people. But the mineral would be phosphorus, because the phosphorus is going to help balance. Actually, soybean lecithin is really the product for her. She might need, in her case, to take 3 soybean lecithin 3 times a day, because you need the choline to emulsify the fat, but you need the phosphorus. Maybe she's getting a lot of this plaquing in these clots, or maybe she's got a lot of calcium built up in her blood that's not moving into the tissue. You see, with her, I think it's a combination of factors. So,
Thank you, Joseph.
all right. Well, thank you,
Joseph?
everyone. Yes, one more.
One more, please. This is Barbara from New York City. I have a case that relates to the cholesterol issue.
Yes.
This is a 53-year-old woman who is 3 years postmenopausal, waking up after 4 hours in a state of panic with sweats. She's overweight, 163 pounds, 5'4", chronic constipation. It's been getting worse, the menopausal symptoms, in the past 6 months since she's been on a statin. Her internist started on the statin because her LDL was 113. After the statin, it was 92. She has a marked apple-shaped body with a big belly. And she's not on the standard process protocol yet. She's taking magnesium, inositol, GABA, theanine, a multivitamin designed to eliminate bad estrogens,
Well,
probiotics,
but
psyllium.
yeah, but she's got all the factors that she has are pointing to her liver. So once you lose that hormonal balance through menopause, that was a key thing you said. That's when all of this cascade of things started to occur. So that's liver related. And then the raising of the cholesterol, that's liver related. So I would probably start her on this program and then make sure that she's walking every day or moving every day if she can't walk. And then and let's see, so the and the food. So she is going to have obviously more fiber, more vegetables in her diet, and no grains, starches, or fruit. No fruit. Because what's going to happen, she is going to get into more of a diabetic crisis. She's going to get into that type 2 diabetes situation. So,
Her sister is a diabetic. Her sister is a diabetic.
Yeah, so that, there could be that familial pattern, yes. So you don't want her to get to that stage. So a paleo diet probably would be the best for her. Now, she's not going to like getting off fruit. It's amazing how many people I talk to and they say, Joe, I thought fruit was okay. Well, I said, well, it is, but how often do you eat it? Well, I eat it 3 or 4 times a day. So I don't go for the bad carbs, but that's a lot of sugar. It's a lot. So that, and probably this woman's triglycerides are high too. So that means, the starches and the grains and starches and fruits that she's eating, the body is creating these triglycerides to store as fat. And that's where you get the big belly. You get that visceral fat that becomes another endocrine gland, basically, and starts ruling the endocrine cascade throughout the body. So she's got to go as cold turkey as she can with a more paleo diet. Robert Atkins, I think you're from New York, Bob Atkins, he took so much criticism about his philosophy, but I can tell you, the Atkins diet, he helped more people than any doctor that I know, just by getting them off of these foods that, as we get older, we don't need. The hunter-gatherer body is not a body that does well with grains and starches and fruits. We are not programmed to deal with these foods in large amounts. Now, other practitioners would argue with me, but I'm telling you, less is more after 50 years old.
I think she also drinks a bit.
Well, okay, well, people like that, if you can get them down to drinking a glass of wine every night, red wine, that's it. If you get them to do that, usually they're happy, and that's not as much of a problem as the foods that she's eating. But believe me, if she just did a paleo diet for 2 weeks, she would tell you, I am my brain is, wow, I'm be able to function again. I've got energy to get out. I want to get out and walk now. People get so burdened with the amount of carbohydrate. You don't need carbohydrate to live in a human body. You need fat and protein, but you don't need the carbohydrate. But that is our whole society. And again, look at the blue zone. Look at what they ate. Now, many of them are vegetarian because we eat too much red meat. And that is a thing. If you study the history of the United States, that was imposed on, that just became part of our life, is eating all that red meat. But more fish and poultry is organic and, as you can get it. And vegetables is really how, if people just did that and don't eat so much in amounts, so you can retrain the body not to eat so much,
Joseph, at the beginning of this, when you said that she would be on the liver products, did you mean this Ruta, lecithin, and beta food, or the ones that we just discussed for the blood clots?
You mean this case with this woman?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I would do is, because now I'm concerned with her, listen to what the doctor described. She's got all these inflammatory processes going on. Well, where is that inflammation? Well, it's in her blood vessels. That's where it's going to go. And, not only there, her blood vessels, her joints, and her brain. That's where all that inflammation is going to start. So, and just multiply. So yes, the 3 products, and the Cyruta is going to help with the integrity of the blood vessels. Then we got to start suspending the fats that from all of this carbohydrate invasion, basically from eating too much carbs, keep that in solution. Then we have to eliminate. Now, I said, which Donna, your question is valid. Are there any other things for the liver? Yes, maybe down the road. I would not detoxify this woman. I would provide that good liver clearance using the beta food. That's what I would do. And
Okay.
And then you think, well, what else could be plugged up? Well, maybe her lymphatic system. That would be Thymex. Maybe the other way is get her on some bile salts, if she still has a gallbladder, you can still use the bile salts or Antranex to open up the blood flow through the liver. And then I would also mainly give her some assistance with her endocrine system. If she still has ovaries, I would give her a Simplex F, even though she's menopausal, or Paraplex if she doesn't have her ovaries. So something to support that endocrine cascade in her, because that's going to be the communication system to get these other organs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, get them up and running and functioning more efficiently. Before she gets so far down the road, then you're just throwing drugs at her. Every symptom she has, they throw a drug at her. And you've accomplished nothing. You're just trying to fix something that's from malnutrition with a chemical, which will never work. So.
Thank you. That was great.
Joseph?
All right, everyone. Well, yes, one more.
Yeah, just a quick caveat. With the protocol, you also have to keep in mind that, the soybean lecithin cannot be given to someone with a fast work to rest ratio. So you always have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, if they're in tachycardia, yes, this is why really these protocols that we're talking about, so point really well made. Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. We have to be watching their hearts, because the electricity of the body is governed by the heart. It's the most electrical organ in the body. And we have to be able to see into the body. Obviously, you can't give a person a lot of phosphorus, as you're saying, if they have a fast heart rate. So we have to get that under control, or you could give them, you know, some G with it, or some organically bound minerals later on in the day to get that regulated. Yes, things get so far down the road that the thing they actually need, you can't give them right away, which is sad. It's sad that they're that far down, but you got to start from where the person is.
Well, and Joseph, couldn't you just give them choline instead of
Yeah, so you could, or G, Cataplex G, you know, will help slow down the heart rate. And Cataplex G has high amounts of choline, or as you're saying, you could give them straight choline. Absolutely. Anybody with a fatty liver should be on G and choline. Probably the rest of their life. Yeah.
Why do you suggest choline at dinner and bed? Can you remind me? I mean, I know the aceto, but explain that really quick.
Oh no, that was for that was for women that do not sleep well, which this case that the doctor presented, she's not sleeping. So she's waking up after 4 hours of sleep. Well, that is either blood sugar or a liver issue. So yeah, and choline before bed will regulate that acetylcholine, that neurotransmitter that wakes you up. You don't want it waking you up at night. You want it waking you up in the morning. So the regulator of that is choline. That's why I try people with the choline straight before bed, before at dinner and before bed, see if that straightens out their sleep problems. But
thank you.
You're welcome.
What dose, Joseph, of the choline at bed?
You know, again, you don't want to take too much, because that's not a natural supplement. That's a synthetic. But you can't get that much choline in a tablet. So even though, you know, standard process is, you know, 70 to 90% all natural, they do have some synthetic products. That's one of them. But if you use G with it, you're getting the natural with the synthetic. But Sharon, you know, one a meal, you don't need a lot, one or even two. I usually have them do 2 at dinner and 2 before bed if they're overthinkers. If the reason they can't either get to sleep or they wake up thinking, I usually do that 2 and 2. I don't know that I would ever go 3 and 3 with choline. Maybe for a while, but I would always give it in cooperation with G or the new Cataplex B core, which we're going to talk a lot about the heart in February, but not January. I have to decide whether I want to, in January, my next lecture, and you all could communicate that with me. My 2 thoughts were to do an hour or 2 hours on depression and anxiety, or to do it on how to get into the new year eating right with you know, a 10-day cleanse programs and eating right. So those are my 2 thoughts as far as my next presentations. So, well, thank you all. I will be with you next Tuesday, which is the, what date is that? Next Tuesday is the 12th. I will be with you, which is the 2nd Tuesday of the month on the HSR. And thank you all for being on today and participating. Blessings to you all as we enter this new year.
Thank you.
Thank you.